So the next topic is census and sample surveys. So now we shall talk about census and sample surveys. So census, or we can say complete enumeration, when a survey includes every element of the population, it is known as census. So every information that is connected with the population, when it is collected, it is called as a census or a complete enumeration. What are the informations that we get from the census, or what are the items that is included in a census? And census is carried out every 10 years, and in this census, an investigator, a researcher, has to go from door to door, from house to house, inquiring and asking to each individual, to every household, about the various information. So items of demographic data on birth and death rates, literacy, employment, life expectancy, size and composition of population, etc., are all collected, and published by the Registrar General of India. And those items, those elements of the population, when collected together, are called census. And it is carried out, every 10 years. And the last census that we have is census of 2011. And according to the census 2011, population of India was, 12109 crore, which was 102.87 crore in 2001. So the latest that we have is 2011 census. So what is the difference between a population and a sample? So population, population and sample. So population, or the universe in statistics, means the totality of the items, everything, or it is always all the individual items. So whatever is included in the population, whatever item included in population is called, population, or the, universe in statistics. What about the sample? Sample means, in simple language, selected part from the whole of population. So when we have to select a sample, what are the methods that are to be followed? So first, to select a sample, you need to identify the population. First, identify the population. What sort of population are there? And then after identifying the population, we select the method of study. So what are the methods to study that particular, population? And a sample survey is a group or a section of the population from which information is to be obtained. So you have identified the population, and you select a method to study that population, and you have selected as group of or section of people from the whole population to get information from them. So that is called a sample survey. And a good sample, or a representative sample, is generally smaller than the population. So it has to be smaller than the population, and it is smaller than the population, but it should be able to provide, reasonably or accurate information about the population at a lower cost and at a short period of time. We are taking a sample because we don't have enough time, to interview or to ask information about to all the people or the whole of the population. That is why we are selecting a sample, which will take lower. Which will cost us a bit lower. The cost will be lower, and then we can finish the investigation at a shorter period of time when the number is less. But the sample survey the sample or representative sample should provide accurate information about the population. That is why we have to be very careful when we select the sample out of the population. suppose you want to study the average income of people in a certain region. So you just want to find out the average income of people in a certain region. So according to the census census method, you would be required to find out the income of every individual and add them and divide them by the number of individuals. So according to census, you have to select, or you have to take all the population into consideration. But in this sample survey or representative sample, you selected a few individuals from the region and find out their income. And then the average income of the selected group of the individuals is used as an estimate of the average income of the individuals, representing the entire region. So we can complete the calculation at a very short time and also at a lower cost instead of going through the census. So let us take an example. So your research problem is to study the economic condition of agricultural laborers in Churachandpur district of Manipur. So your population will be all agricultural laborers that is in Churachandpur district. And then most of the surveys are done through a sample survey. So in order to come into conclusion about the condition of the laborers in Churachandpur district, you have to select a sample survey of few selected individuals of the laborers of Churachandpur district, and you find out the various information from this selected group of people instead of taking the whole population of Churachandpur district who are engaged in labor activity or agriculture. So these selected people will represent the entire population, and whatever you get information from them from the sample group will represent the whole of the population. So when we have a smaller group of sample, we can collect a detailed information and then conduct intensive inquiries, and we need a smaller team of enumerators to supervise them and train them effectively. So we are reducing our costs, and also we can finish our study at a shorter period of time. And again, in this sample survey, there are two types of sampling, that is random sampling and then non-random sampling. So in this random sampling, what does it mean? It is a situation where random sampling is one where the individual units from the population are selected at random. So while selecting for the sample survey, you are selecting an individual at a very random from the whole of population. There is no biasness. There is no nothing behind your selection of the particular individual. It is purely at random, and everyone in the population has get equal chances to be selected as a sample survey. So in a random sampling, every individual has an equal chance of being selected, and that is why it is also called a lottery method. And talking about the non-random sampling, there may be a situation when you want to find out information about your locality who are which are consisted of 10 households. So you have to decide which household to select and which to reject when you have to conduct a sample survey. So out of 100 households, suppose you are going to select 10 households. So you have to decide which one to reject and which one to include in your selection of the sample survey or representative sample. So in this non-random sampling, what you do is you select the households conveniently situated or household known to you or to your friend. You are selecting someone who is convenient for you or your friend or someone who is staying near you. So you are using your judgment. So you are being biased. It is not purely random anymore. So you are using your judgment in selecting 10 households. So this way of selecting 10 out of 100 household is not a random selection. So in a non-random sampling method, all the units of population do not have an equal chance of being selected. And convenience or judgment of the investigator plays an important role in selection of the sample. Since you are using your judgment, your convenience sake, you are going to select someone who is close to you, who is more convenient for you. And so whoever is present in the, among the population who are not convenient to you, who are not close to you, did not have any chance of being selected as a sample survey. So everyone does not have equal chance in non-random sampling because an investigator is using his judgment or convenience or being biased to someone. So they are mainly selected on the basis of judgment, purpose, convenience, quota, and hour or non-random sample, and they are known as non-random samples. And again, in sampling method, we have two concepts, that is sampling errors and non-sampling errors. Important characteristics of population is there are two important characteristics of a population. That is, the first one is central tendency, which can be measured by mean, median, mode, and the other one is dispersion, which can be measured by standard deviation, mean deviation, etc. So these are the two main numerical values or important characteristics of a population. So what does sampling error mean? Sampling error refers to the difference between the sample estimate and the corresponding population parameter, or the actual estimate of the characteristics of the population. It is the difference between what? The difference between the sample estimate and the actual value of the estimate or characteristics of the population. Okay, here let us explain through example what is a sampling error. So consider 5 farmers whose incomes are given 500, 550, 600, 650 and 700. So we want to find out the average income of the whole population. So we divided the income we add up all the income of the farmers divided by the total number of farmers. So how much we got? 3,000 divided by 5. So the average income of the whole population is 600. So now we select a sample survey for our study. So 2 individuals are selected whose income are 500 and 600. What is their sample average? That is 500 plus 60 divided by 2 comes to 550. So their average income according to the sample is 550. So what is the sampling error here? It is the difference between the total value or the estimate of the sampling of the sample survey. It is the value of the total estimate or the difference between these two, total value and estimated value. So 600 is the total value and 550 is the estimated value when we take sample, and 600 is when considering the whole population. So when we subtract these two, we get 50. So 50 is considered as the sampling error. And sampling errors can be reduced by increasing the number of sample survey. We increase the sample survey and we can reduce the sampling errors. And non-sampling errors is much more serious than sampling errors because a sampling error can be minimized, as I have told you, by increasing the sample survey, but here non-sampling errors cannot be minimized. What are some of the non-sampling errors? That is sampling bias. So sampling bias occurs when the sampling plan is such that some members of the targeted population could not possibly be included in the sample. So when we take sample, we cannot include everyone in the population. So we, select them according to our convenience for our purpose. So that is sampling bias. Next one is non-response error. So non-response occurs if an interviewer is unable to contact a person listed in the sample, or a person from sample refused to respond. So a person who is listed as a sample survey is not responding, or the investigator or interviewer is not able to get contact from that person. Third one is errors in data acquisition. So there might be some, errors when you collect data, misinformation, unclear information, and you have written the data or information wrongly. For example, instead of 31, you have written 13. So these are some of the errors when you are collecting a data, and these are some of the non-sampling errors which are more dangerous than sampling errors. So what are some of the organizations or agencies which are looking after the census or sampling and all those things? Mainly we have NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, and Central Statistics Office, Registrar General of India, Directorate General of Commercial Intelligence and Statistics, Labor Bureau, etc. So these are some of the agencies or organizations who are looking after the census and collection of data throughout the country. And census, it is published, or it is carried out every 10 years. So they publish this in their own magazines, or in their website, their official website, government reports. So what we can conclude is that economic facts, when it is expressed in numbers, they are exact, and we call them as data. And the purpose of data collection is to understand, explain, analyze, and give solutions to the problems so that we can get rid of these economic problems. So to understand, analyze such problems, we use the help of statistics, certain statistics tools, and there is a close relationship between economics and statistics. With this, we have come to the end of chapter number 2. Thank you.